Just testing.
Except for that mental health day that you say Friday or Monday.
Yeah.
Well, I worked out a deal where I worked an extra week at Christmas, so I can take a week in April.
That's smart.
So
If only we could do
that. I'll be in Alaska.
Oh, nice. Fishing?
Yes. I was trying to go steelhead fishing this year in Eureka, and they had too much rain. Not enough to cause any flooding, but too much to fish it. So I lost out on my trip there, so we'll go in April. All right, so we wanted to talk about what we're doing for our culminating activities. And we give you a backstory. In 2000 to 2010, 11, 12, they did a party for the culminating activity. They had music and a guest speaker, and you sat at a table, and you got food, it was catered. It was all great when we had an untouchable grant of over $500,000 a year that you could only spend on BITSA. And then things changed, and I think it was Schwarzenegger that caused it to be flexible spending during the 2009 economic downturn. So we moved to a presentation. And we did that for a number of years up until about the pandemic, and found that it didn't quite allow the teachers to tell their story of growth, but it certainly generated a lot of data. It sounds like I have one more person looking for us. We're good. So then we moved to an interview and found that we got the story, but we didn't get the data. So we took it to our advisory committee, and they said, why don't you do both? I'm like, oh, okay. So for first years only, we're kind of doing a mid-program check-in interview. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And then for early completion option and second years, we move back to the presentation. But we hope with some of the questions that we've asked that there's more story. The interview will probably be about 15 minutes. The presentation will probably take closer to 30. So it's more rigorous. But they're common questions. So that's where we're at tonight. We're going to run an interview. We're not quite sure, but we think we're going to do it here and bring in our county mentors and administrators and try to figure it out. I don't know yet. My admin assistant looked at me. She didn't say anything, but we've been working long enough together where I could tell she was thinking, are you serious? And so we're going to have to strategize a little more. We have this room, we have a conference room over here and the other parking lot, but it's complicated. And now all of our offices are full, so we shall see what we shall see. All right, so tonight you have the questions and the rubric, but that's the wrong rubric.
From last year.
Well, that's for the presentation.
This rubric says introduction.
It does.
Yeah.
It has the questions on the left.
I think it's right.
Yeah, the
The one we
questions, but
had.
that's the wrong rubric.
Oh, the rubric
That's for the
itself is
presentation. Let me grab the look.
What's the same as the one you gave? Is it different from the one you gave us last time?
Let me look and make sure I give you the right one.
Same as that one. Did you guys all wear their shirts?
Yeah.
Should we get them together?
Sure, and this is today for my
Plus for when
There
you
you go.
usually testing for them too.
I appreciate it because it's one outfit I don't understand. That's really, they were like, you have to wear this tomorrow. I was like, thanks. Appreciate
Did you have
it.
to buy it, or they bought it for you?
They bought it.
Yes,
Yeah.
And all the shirts.
Yeah, I can see all the shirts.
I had a lot of shirts when I stopped teaching. I had to get rid of a lot of shirts. And then I told Michelle, you want me to be a mentor next year? You're gonna need me to
Right.
get me another t-shirt. Because I need one to have for all the schools. 'Cause I have a lot of cooler shirts. It's a little embarrassing.
I have a fair meat one, but it's
I
like
want
a
a very
red
neat one.
polo.
Yeah,
And I don't like.
I don't have nothing else to wear. Yeah. Yeah, on Mondays we would wear a work shirt. On Fridays we would wear a polo shirt. That was 2 days that we didn't have.
We wear like cute department shirts. People wear not shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like only on
3 days. And then on Wednesdays I would wear like nice, like the nice shirt, nice shoes. And then Tuesday and
There you
Thursday
go.
I wear custom. I don't think anybody does it anymore.
I just feel like because of the likes, likes to dress like nice.
He always looks nice. Yeah. And Michelle always looks
So,
awesome.
it's
Yes.
so much more hands-on.
Right, you're on the ground.
Oh, yeah,
You're
for
teaching.
sure.
Not school age yet.
I saw one this is big.
Yeah, we all different. This is presentation.
No,
This one.
You're right. I know. There was. Oh yeah, it was. It's not the little sister, one of my kids from 2 years ago.
Okay.
Do the second grade, right?
is this one you said, there's two?
Yes.
Okay, I was wrong, I was right the first time, we're good.
It does say interview, the.
Yeah, we're good.
I was telling her that you texted me today.
I think what happens is.
All right. So we want our candidates to introduce themselves. It's not graded, but tell us your name, your site, teaching assignment, what your credential you're carrying, and your prior experience. We're not asking them what year they're in the program because everyone will be a year older. Very straightforward. Question 2. What was the motivation in choosing your ILP goals? All right, so if we think back to August, September, how did we choose our goals?
Self-assessed.
The self-assessment. So in the interview, we want you to talk about that. Self-assessment, graded that, said that these were the standards that had areas of growth. They can also talk about the individual development plan for the university, the IEP. And if they had prior experience, they can talk about being evaluated. But good chance that you haven't had, if you just get brand new to teaching or brand new to the site, you haven't had enough relationship with the administrator to get feedback from them, so that wouldn't be something we would expect. The big one would be the self-assessment using the CSTP, which you're going to be doing again. I'm going to assign that tomorrow, actually. It goes out and do the 15th or so of April. So you have a chance to go through that again, and you'll see that we'll reference that again in the end. So before and after, this is my areas of growth. Okay? What pathways were most impactful to your teaching practice and why? And notice that it's plural, but tell us about 2 or 3 pathways that really move the needle Tell us how it impacted you. What are some pathways that we used this year?
Well, at our site, we had a really good training, remember, on the it's PDIS training. And so that was I thought it was an excellent one. It kind of showed the science behind student behavior. So
Okay, good. You were all observed by your mentors. That's a pathway. You all went out and did peer observations of other teachers. Okay. But think about the one that really, so if the PBIS training really moved the needle, that's the one you talk about. I learned this, I tried it in the classroom, this is how it impacted me as a teacher. If we're looking at the rubric for just a second, we're going to tell you that 4, 6, 8, 10, you need 12 points to meet the standard. That means that in the first 4, 5, you can get a 1, but you have to make it up by getting a 3 somewhere else. And while we're there, I will tell you that the panel will be instructed, if necessary, to ask you clarifying questions, but only clarifying questions, so that we don't deviate and ask some teachers one question and another teacher a different question. So, but if there's something there that we haven't found all the evidence for, or they're looking for something, if you said, my motivation for creating this was I felt like I needed to learn more about, and you told us all about that, then panel might say, tell us about the CSTP and the self-assessment. Did that influence your decision to make, right? Because they want to hear how that impacted you, okay? So pathways. If you're looking at the rubric, 2 meets the standards with the Y, and 2 or more exceeds the standards, which would be 3. We have an update coming up. In fact, I think I just assigned it. It's due Friday, the 15th.
Yeah.
The best thing you can do is add to your pathway on the update. Please, please, please don't change your goal right now, right? Because we spend all this time collecting evidence for that goal. I'll allow you to change the outcome if necessary, but I want you to be real careful about that. If you said, look, the outcome was way too easy, my kids exceeded that in November, it's not really telling us much, and you want to change the numbers, you can. Or it was way too hard, and we're never going to meet it, you want to adjust that, you can. But my hearty recommendation is that you just add to the pathway. Okay? All right, as you think about your ILP, what are some accomplishments that you are most proud of? Did something happen this year that you made a change and all of a sudden the aha moment, not for your students, but for you, really clicked? And as a result, you couldn't do it now in August, but now you can, or your students couldn't do something in August, but now they can. What are you most proud of? This would also be a time where you could talk about your outcomes. Pre-assessment, summative assessment, focus students, right? Because it really references the ILP in the question. So if you reference that in your answer, on my ILP outcomes, students went from here to there. Okay? What evidence can you provide that indicates you've grown as a teacher? So now we circle back to the self-assessment, and you can tell us about the 2 standards that you addressed in your ILP goals and how you grew based on the self-assessment and those 2 standards. That would be a great piece of evidence. You can also reference evaluations from evaluators, feedback from your mentor, and your journal. You can also connect to the slide before where we're talking about those outcomes. Any questions so far? This is going to go fast without questions.
I have a question. Can we bring notes with us?
Absolutely. Great question. So you don't need a computer. You don't need to. We would ask that you would bring 4 copies of your ILP. And we would even ask that you bring the notes because there's some data in there that we're going to ask you to reference for. But please don't script out your answers and read them to us, right? We want it to be a conversation. Great question. Yeah. And while we're talking about that, I tried really hard not to make this a pressure situation, but I get it, and you're going to be nervous. So bringing those notes is key. Also, I would really think it would be great if you would practice ahead of time with your mentor or even with another peer. What we find is the more repetition you go through this, the less nervous you will be. All right, this is a question we haven't asked you to really think about until recently. So I put this in the journal for March. In blue, mentors, they got to answer the question in their journal. The question is, what ways did you build relationship with your students this year? And the second part of that question is, how did it change the classroom environment? And I'm predicting that you're going to tell me all the ways you built relationships and forget to tell us how it changed the classroom environment. So I want you maybe to underline that on your notes. How did it change the classroom environment? One of the reasons that we're adding this question is that the CSTPs are changing. The final revise is going to the Committee on Accreditation in April, and we should get the final edition soon. And there's more social emotional standards that are going to be coming out. We're actually going to have to revise our program a little bit to accommodate the new standards that are coming out. But that's another one. Think narrative here. So this one isn't going to be about the data. This is going to be about your story, right? And I'm hoping that one of you makes our teachers cry. You know, you're like, you get out of the park, and I had this foster care kid, and I realized he didn't have a jacket, and right, you're going to make us cry because you have this amazing story to tell us. So we're looking forward to hearing that. All right. How did you change a challenge this year to a win? Again, it's a story. But I want to caution you. This is probably not the time to tell us that you had a hard time with your peers in your PLC, or that you had an administrator that you couldn't stand and you really struggled with, right? I get that that's a challenge, but this is still Madera County, and whatever you say will probably reach that person's ear, and I'm sure you want that to happen. Have you all had a challenge this year? Yeah, you like
Of the types you mentioned?
Remember, my camera's rolling back there.
I just said yes, I didn't get no narrative here.
So it should be student-based
Yeah,
challenges,
Yes.
pretty much.
Yes. Right. You had a difficult kiddo and you figured out a way to work around it.
Don't did for 6 and 7.
You had an EL student that didn't speak Spanish. That was another foreign language, and they're like, I don't know what to do with Japanese, but here we go, and something like that. It could be challenging curriculum you weren't familiar with and figure out how to work that through. was the kids weren't getting it and you came up with new strategies, or I'm guessing most of you are going to tell me about just some students that were hard to work with and you figured out how to crack that nut. Or maybe you didn't have the right equipment, you didn't have any technology, the tire pump went out so you couldn't pump up the volleyballs, or I don't know. All right. As you think about the future, what steps we take to continue to learn and grow professionally, tell us what your plans are. And we're giving you a clue here. One hint might be next year when I come back from MIG 2, the goals I'm thinking about are, you could tell us you're enrolling in a master's degree program. I was joking the other day with another district and said you want to be the next superintendent because they've gone through 5 superintendents in the last 5 years.
You're sad.
Yeah, still in the mountains. But what are you thinking for the future? Because we want you to constantly have that growth mindset. So tell us what your plans are. And it's either you do tell us or you don't, right? So it's easy to get that one point. All right, now I want to give you about 15 minutes or so to work with your mentor and start kind of outlining how you want to answer these questions. Kind of think that through.
So for this one, I just want to put out there too. Make sure that you mention it first.
When will they be again?
And then the related.
May.
May, beginning.
Yeah, beginning May. We're going to do the second years in ECOs first,
Okay.
and then first years after that, and for you it'll be at the site.
That's really.
First site.
Oh, but I want to be there, huh? Okay.
Well, then I'll let the TSM and the administrators be there.
Okay.
For county, we're going to come here.
I don't know, do you have any ideas for how you're going to answer anything?
You have on that.
Or
I
Catholics?
think so.
Did any come to mind?
Well, I think I actually mentioned too many. So, one of my really big, like my big data collection piece was my Excel and NWEA and comparing those two. So I would have them like enter the dojo, and I've been tracking like their testing. I've been tracking their testing from there. So I've been tracking like how they started, where they were in the middle, and then they just finished, they did one more test. How much growth, like some kids went up like 4 grade levels or whatever. And so that's what I used, and then a lot of like anchor charts too, like evidence, for the classroom environment and stuff, because my goals were more geared towards upping the rigor and creating like a good, like a really cohesive class environment.
Right. I know. That's
What kind of notes do you take from the conferencing?
Right.
Yes, that's what I would use, like in grid. Yeah, so you could submit that, definitely.
And then should I do something to performance, like maybe like their essay writing, like when it's at the beginning and then after a unit, like you have to go through.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Could you do that like maybe from your focus students?
Yeah.
Okay. The ones that you picked at the beginning.
Because it's like, like 14
Right.
pages. So I was
Right.
holding off and then I had to go.
So maybe you won't see what the rest of it.
But you have it, you just have to clutch it up.
Let me
Yeah.
actually, can I ask you about, so one of her goals
All
was
these
ELD
trees from
related.
Um,
Can she use, because we tested our own
What's yours?
for speaking,
The reason
Can
is
she
because you really
use
only have to write
that as one of her
like the right pathways.
outcomes.
Like I noticed that
Let me just tell you guys.
this percentage of students
He's my home.
scored high.
So you want to rewrite the ILP outcome?
Is it all
to
caps?
Look at the ELD
That's your
scores?
all caps?
And
Or you want to use it as evidence?
Just as evidence.
Yes,
And Madera
either way
USD
works
gas,
better.
right?
I just wasn't sure like if there were rules about sharing,
Because
You can always make the students anonymous.
That's the whole
You
like.
can use initials, you can use
that's what I did.
your interview, so you're not presenting anything, you
I was just
say,
gonna type these out
two
so
of my
that when we
ELD
meet,
students, or my ELD
so
students
that when
grew
we meet,
this
we
much.
can talk about them.
One of my
Yeah, well, there's
ELD
three that's
students.
gonna be on
Total
our,
text
let me show you which ones we're already talking about, so we won't talk about those,
I said
we're
that
talking about
wrong.
those next. Those,
anonymity, right? There you go.
I was trying to think how to say it, I forget. I had brain cramp.
it's the end of the day.
Yes.
Well, I think it's the
three
fact that I
we're
just
talking
turned
about next week
59.
is one way to go, is just.
Okay, so that, yeah, number 6.
So there you go.
And then how did a change to what, 7?
So maybe
So
then what you
and as we think of the future, and 8. So we really don't need to hit on 2, 3, 4, and 5 together. We don't have to, we can have them also in April, but is there any from 2 through 5, is there any that are like, we have any more
By the
questions on
time-
those?
Have you had them do start history?
I think both of you are gonna be able to come up with some good stories on how you
Yeah,
change challenges into
probably.
wins. Like I said, your little one that went to Mexico and
I know, I would-
just
I would
shows
do
back
it.
up.
Just shows like, because he's like, hey, I'm
Yeah, I mean, that's challenging. And then mom was like, he's horrible. She was like, he was going for
I
almost
was like, he was literally gone for
Yeah.
She's like, well, he
Yeah, we
made
have
it
all
because I
able to
excel.
gather all
It's
this
like,
together.
but there's like tests
By
and stuff.
design.
Yeah.
Perfect. So we have, I would do maybe start
Yeah, he
tests
just completely missed.
after class for that.
And he was, and I actually had 2 do that. One of them disenrolled and then re-enrolled. They made him do it, but the other one they didn't make him do it. I was like,
I had that happen too, and one of my kids did disenrolled, areas of like.
Because that one,
yeah.
So I dropped it, and then he
you
came
can get a lot
back,
of
and
data.
I lost all of his data, and it was for the one that had before, and I was like, so now I'm like,
Awful.
I'm sick when they disenroll, I'm like, maybe we're on back.
Maybe they'll come back with
Because of it's, I believe, if it's the IABs, they're like.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're
pretty good indicator.
Yeah, because that should be questions, I think.
Because like, what is your IDP for number 2?
Yes.
You do have an evaluation, you don't have evaluation questions from Casey?
I have one from this year. I
Yeah,
have,
but not, but I mean, it's because you have to, for your motivation for choosing your IDP. So you use your IDP and your self-assessment to choose your goals. Is that what you use?
I probably have some stuff on my IDP because I did have a internship.
Or did you want me to see what your,
I give it.
I have it right here, super easy.
I think I was part of my IDP.
So just don't go down.
Oh, that's the IL.
Or you can do individual.
Yeah.
IDP is from.
Yeah, but I was just looking what they were, through learning through assessment, conferencing and data collection. Yeah, so you definitely want to pull some of that stuff because it was you want to relate to your IOP goal. And then your other one was cultivate your ability to improve the learning environment through class small group and individual engagement. Very similar. Improve the learning environment.
We will go with that one. So it's like classroom management ties into the second one.
What's the word? Incentivize? I wouldn't know how to.
I don't know if we did this question. We had it, I think I forgot the question to think about, thinking about your students'
Right?
social
And
emotions.
as for
That was a
Z,
long
I'm-
question.
I think we're gonna meet on Friday.
Oh, so I haven't met with you yet. So we're gonna actually talk a little bit about this ILP, so you can actually.
Notice it. And then just, I figure I'll just go through the journal and write the questions, and answers, and put some. Very well and really sure what they know.
Evidence, you can provide that indicates you've grown as a teacher.
Right.
Students' growth outcomes, and that's where your major
We've
outcomes.
got star, we need one more.
Where they met, stories, what's working.
We
another cycle.
So there's that.
And then you're gonna do your self-assessment again, you said in April,
Reflection. Because one of yours
and that'll be an
was
assignment.
the
So you
classroom
definitely wanna look at your first assessment
rigorous,
and see where you graded
So-
yourself.
I
At the
know I graded
beginning,
myself like
low,
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 like
yeah.
literally like the first one.
What is the first or second column?
And I'll
Yeah.
probably give myself the second column, maybe now. Like for sure second column, but
Yeah.
third column's getting a little, that's getting a little crazy.
So
It's getting a little
You're getting a little
crazy.
close to perfection there.
Get a little too ambitious there.
Yeah, see, but I'm saying definitely pull that up so you have that, so you can remember where you placed yourself.
Has to be something
And
like
then, you know, start looking at the
Right.
next column over.
that, it's like, I will send you to the office, let's do this, and then.
So that could be something to look at besides just test scores, like reflection data or missing assignment data. And that kind of shows the rigorous learning environment. Or even dojo points, if you do that daily.
I don't,
I missed my last T-ball practice.
I'd
rather be.
I'd be like, I would rather be.
I noticed it wasn't.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
No, you're
remember all the
fine.
things you're
You're
saying
fine.
today.
You can.
But it's all good,
It's
she
okay.
just
We
went
used to
like.
have a teacher during sessions, she'd come and she'd like flop all her stuff down, it would literally be taking like 4 spaces and people would be like,
X.
sit here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where they get a star.
She'd like, fuck you.
She'd
Yes.
Tired, bless her soul.
They respond better to that than they do to
So I feel like my brain
So that's why
is
it's
just all over the
dojo.
place.
But then I thought, okay, let's do dojo again, so that we can, do class points and they're there and I don't erase them every week. So, also that'll be a little bit of end of the year party, if we get to a certain number of points.
I mean,
Right.
they're pretty.
Otherwise, I have to
Just
bring
like
in
it's something
something
for something on the
that
note card.
and then,
Oh,
Can I,
and
like,
that old school.
type it in?
if anyone.
We're not gonna see them, do
I was gonna say like, well, cause just like to make like, cause I just typed them all, like, just to make like little reminders, like what evidence can you provide, like, that way I can just say like I excel or whatever, and I know that this is
And honestly,
where,
that
oh, that's where it's going,
work
yeah.
for
we
you
reference
know,
the evidence, do we
number 6.
like print it out, or do we just say?
Um,
You're just talking about it.
Changing the classroom
It's just all gonna be like verbal, verbally. Yeah, the only thing you need to have printed out are your IOPs, the 4 copies of your IOPs. One
Yeah,
for
because
you, and then
you
one for the
realize
people that you're talking to.
that your students weren't responding
Because
well.
we're gonna, people that you're talking to, we're gonna know if you're, you know, like even after I talk to you, exactly, pull up your IOPs, because I don't know.
They come in
I don't know what's up with they are.
like, sure, I'll take that.
So here's
On
here.
there, so that, not that I don't have it.
examples of evidence to go
Right.
people. There's all of this, so I'm sure you guys have got that. Okay, so I have that in here.
So that could be one thing, because you learn, you build a relationship and you learn more about them and you're
Yeah,
like,
and if you, or like you said, you worked in another school, right?
I was just an aide, yeah.
Yeah, like if you had, or your experience from
Oh,
when you
works
worked
with
at
that stars.
very
Cool.
in the spring of last
Yeah,
year,
yes.
because you started in the spring, right? Last year,
So,
like this time
and
last
then the
year.
others.
Exactly a year today, actually.
Oh,
Okay,
happy
so
anniversary,
it's
moving to Churchill
No,
School
it's
District.
like, which I did,
It's a
like,
big deal.
and then it's a
Um,
historical class. That's
right.
it.
Or you can use observations, like my observations, like on
If they
my
make it all the way,
input.
it's reflection.
Well, prior, for, it's just like for the introductions, like what my
Oh,
prior
for the
experience.
introduction,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just say
Sorry, I thought you were
search.
talking about number.
Oh, okay.
Number.
You give them
2. Yeah.
Okay.
your strikeout.
Yeah, and your experience you had at school.
But those points, the stars, I haven't,
This is what I take pictures.
It's just, it's all in there, at least it's in there,
It is.
it's in one place.
It is.
Is it easily accessible?
That's the nice
It's,
thing
you know.
here. All my schedules for all the schools. But I take pictures of all the important things
So
if I
you
need it,
do.
so I can find it.
Maybe we can look at number 5.
I don't wanna have to do that. I was just gonna see if I have to do that for you.
No, I think
So
You
you'll
have
do
that.
another self-assessment.
it's
It sounds like.
Okay, awesome, perfect.
Post it, sorry.
Dre earned it.
Oh, the
Baseball
Queen,
tickets. Did you guys get these too?
yeah, the Fresno
Grizzlies
Grizzlies.
games tickets here. You have to, you gotta read books and the teacher kept track of them for him.
Because I already know.
And she gave him time every single day to read, and then she's like, what books did you read? And she would fill it out, and then fill it out, she gave it to him. So now I'm gonna have to take them, June 21st.
Wow, they did that for the kids. They literally told us just send them out. And I was like, this is like, are we keeping track? Are you keeping track? She was,
They can do it.
worst comes to worst, they just
Starting to think
Yep,
about.
she did that for them, she filled that out for this all her handwriting, she wrote that all for them. And then he came over and said, Mom, I got a ticket.
Great.
Yeah, so that's the evidence there.
It seems kind of pretty easy.
Interviews? I don't know. Steve, do you know when the interviews will be?
In May.
In May?
First 2 weeks of May.
Oh, in May.
First 2 weeks of May.
But.
I don't know why I thought that.
Yeah.
I still want to do
And then they're fine with it, responding to it.
I would think either 6 or 7. Yeah, like making, following through. Because there's a lot of talk that are going on and some of that stuff, and a lot of follow through, you know. Like they're supposed to have, street scenes or whatever, nothing wrong with the scene, and then, well, you can let that.
Well, speaking of, I was very flexible at the beginning of the year when these ticket cases and the having an abortion.
Yeah.
So, many come up to Wednesday. There was a proposal and then I'll have them do it actually one day before. So we can go to the
Okay.
just because we need a team. And, so we put rounds, but this looks like a full income.
Right, yeah, if they're continuing.
Really want to use because, so I thought like if they're not getting scenes for it, we can put it in. That's flat lightning.
Right.
So I don't have any flat lightning restrictions. So which is it? Is it a GPA or is it seems better?
And we can't even access the semester. Semester 2 yet. Yeah.
And then by then, I just put on this D's.
Yeah.
Missing out.
And that's what apparently clear said that you can do that. So, I mean, that is really just you kind of standing over our and let's take a look.
Yeah, but then I got that. Sure, I'll say you this, if you now have more than 2.5. If it's missing,
Right. Right.
but that's all missing.
I don't know. I don't know that there is anywhere that would fit that situation perfectly.
Yeah.
But, right.
Maybe there.
Right? That is a challenge.
So they have aids, through the district, but then they also have contract agencies.
But then also it shows like being flexible as well.
Because in the beginning of this year, she was going to do this, and they're like,
give it a try.
Garfield School, that is shows.
Excited to work with you, and, you know, and I think that probably helped her just
Form
have,
a relationship.
yeah.
I helped us.
Yeah, I think that was
So for then, next step, she just didn't say no, because I need you.
Right.
So you're missing reflection. So I thought that was decent. So
Oh, yeah.
It's just her.
and internet connection.
I think so, to be held accountable. Yeah.
Technology's great.
Well, my friend
do
was
so much with technology.
She was like, I see that. I think they close from their head there. She was like, are they saying things? So someone's just online and I'm pulling the teacher.
dark.
When you get even the like,
Is it the dark?
Yeah.
put her in the capture
good.
into like a it looks kind of like, you know.
Have any questions? Good to go. All right, well, thanks for coming in.
Awesome, thank you.
We'll see you in 6 weeks.
I'll see you next week.
Yes, I will see you next week. Yes, I'll see you tomorrow for the observation. I want you to.